So in this video, we're going to go over these 5 tags: article and section, hgroup, aside, and footer. In the next video, we'll go over header and nav, also very important. So what we're starting with is a page that you've seen before. It's got a few additions. Mainly, it's got this blue background that's wall-to-wall, side-to-side. And that is because I have already applied a style sheet to this HTML document. And I've done that because it will make it easier for you, I think, to see how a tag, section tag such as aside, applied to the content makes a change, because I've separated the style out, which is the way we will normally do it. And so far, the only thing that's already in our document is the body, because you know every HTML document has to have a body tag, right? And I've already specified that the background should be this medium blue color. Now, so far, our HTML document doesn't have an article tag, it does not have an hgroup, it does not have an aside, etc. Okay, we're going to put those in, but I've already styled them to save time, because we're not really learning about the styles now. We'll be learning about them next week. So I also wanted to mention the tag section. There's a lot of confusion between article and section, and you can look this up, Google it, it's all over the web. People aren't quite sure when to use section and when to use article, and there's a lot of opinions about it. One way that section is commonly used is a bit advanced. So I'm going to show you somebody else's demo site. And when you see a site that does this, when it has these really large images and they kind of slide up and down this way, that is usually done with sections. And this guy's demo, his tutorial that he's written, you can see right here in the beginning of his demo, he used the section tag. So he's going to set up 4 different sections, and each one of them will have a different background that slides the way you're seeing right here. So that's a common use of section. That's a little bit advanced for where you are right now. So we're going to keep it simple. And we're first going to mark this up as an article, because look at it. It's not a whole website. It doesn't have a navigation on it. It's one article about one topic. It's got some subheadings. So if we were to mark this up, this is a lot like the previous video, where we used a div at the top and the bottom of all the content on the page, only this time, because the whole page is an article, we are going to mark it up not with a div, but with the tag article. So we'll start with article, the opening tag of the element at the very top, directly under body, and we'll go to the bottom, and right above body, the last thing in this document will be /article, the closing tag. So I'm going to save and reload, and what happens? Because I have applied some styles, similar to the previous video that was only about divs, I have applied a style to make the article a white background. I have applied a style to make the article narrow, and to have a little bit of padding on the left and right side, okay? So that's what happened when we added article, not because all articles look like that, but because in my style sheet, I have told article to have those characteristics, right? Those styles, the background color of white, a width of 700 pixels, and so on. It changed everything when I added the article tags, all right? And they surrounded everything on the page. Now the next tag I'm going to add is one that I rarely use myself, but I wanted to show you the proper use of it. And that is to block up a group of headings that kind of don't fit the standard way that we use H's. Normally we wouldn't have an H1 and an H2 side by side together with nothing in between them. But if we want to do that, to produce a larger top heading and then a kind of subheading, the correct way to indicate that to the browser, to the screen readers, and so on, is to surround that clump of headings that have H1 and H2 style heading tags, surround them with an H group. So I will save, I will reload, and you'll see that I've applied some styles to the whole H group. And what does that look like in my style sheet? It looks like this. So all I did was change the font for the headings in the H group, and that's the change we saw. Now, the aside is pretty interesting. An aside element is supposed to be for something that's tangential to the main content. And so, different from our previous Vespa articles, I've actually added a little clump of, oh, where'd it go? Oh my goodness, I forgot to add it. Okay, let's see. I believe I have it here. Copy, and I want this to be right under the first image. So what I've done here is I have added a new H2 and one new paragraph. And let me save and reload before I add the aside. So this is right here. This is what I'm going to style, and it's material that you don't really need to understand the Vespas. It's just like a little interesting sidebar. So I'm going to mark that up as an aside, and all we do is wrap it up in shrink wrap, and this time the shrink wrap tag is aside, and like that. Okay, so save and reload. And this is pretty neat. Now, it doesn't do this automatically. Again, I added styles in my style sheet that made this happen. So my aside has rather a lot of stuff. It has a narrower width, it floats to the right, and so forth. But this is exactly the kind of content that you would like to use the aside tag to mark up. All right. And last and not least, we've actually done almost everything, right? I've done an article, I've done an H group, I've done an aside, and then the last thing I want to do is the footer here at the bottom. And my footer is going to look really similar to the aside. Well, no, I think it has a different background color, yeah. But I'm going to put a color background on it so that you can see what happens when I add the footer. All right, so down at the bottom, I have my name and the source of my article, Wikipedia. I have them wrapped up in one single P tag, so one paragraph. So they're just 2 lines here at the bottom, kind of boring. But often a footer is set off from the other content, right? So we don't have to keep the P tag. We can, but we can actually just change the P to a footer. And save and reload, and this is a typical kind of footer styling, right, where it's in a color box. It might be below the article in some cases, but in this case it's part of the article. That is the way I chose to structure this document, right? That was my choice. If I wanted to put it outside, well, I could, although in this case I think it's going to look a little weird. If I cut the article tag and put it above the footer and save and reload, aha, the footer is quite different, right? So let's put that back the other way. Cut, paste, save, reload. All right, so now my footer is inside my article, just like my aside and my H group.